Welcome back to Between State Lines, episode 25. And we are still waiting to hear back from potential sponsors, Arby's and Tushy. And by potential, I have made no contact with them besides begging them on TikTok to sponsor us. I think we need to send some ghost babies to visit them, like a modern day Christmas Carol. Christmas past can show them my mom forcing my brothers and I to do seances at 3 a.m. Christmas present can show them this current recording. And then Christmas future can show them what their future would be like, ruled by ghost babies.
I like that.
Um,
I like that idea.
exactly. So, and today we have a special guest with us, Danielle, a good friend from TikTok.
Hi.
Now, Danielle, I've told you this before. We take our show very, very seriously here, and we never joke about anything at all.
All business,
And
all
at
serious.
all business, all the time, 24/7. And as such, we ask every guest really hard, really introspective questions. And Steph, before you get started, I upped my game here. I've made this so much more impressive. I am going to blow you away.
Okay, can't.
So, Danielle, let's
Yeah.
say Jeff Bezos is walking down the same street as you.
Okay.
Obviously, you give him the finger, just like all of us would.
As you do. Yep.
But instead, he stops and makes you an offer. He'll give you $10 million. All taxes are paid by him, so it's 10 million net. In return, though, you have to let him cut off a single body part and keep it. You're guaranteed to live. It's nothing vital like your ears, your nose, eyes, head, etc. And it could be as small as a pinky, or it could be like your foot. Are
Okay.
you
Like,
taking the money?
does he get to choose, or do we get to agree before I agree? Like, do I know what body part he's taking it before, or is that at his choice?
It's his choice. You got to agree, and then he chooses, and then
Ooh. Oh. I mean, $10 million. I feel like I could get a replacement if need be, if anything, right? For cheap money. I mean, I don't know how much feet go for these days, but it's definitely not 10 million. Um, I would probably do a lot less for 10 million, so I would say yes. Like I would, yeah, take it. Take as long as it's not a vital piece of me. I would really hope for a pinky to go. I feel like that would, or a toe, something like that. But if it's a foot, I mean, so be it. 10 million, yeah, that would solve all the problems, like everything. I'd be set. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Jeffrey. Yes.
Steph is not as willing to agree to these terms as you and I
Okay.
are.
Well, okay, it was a lot less back in the day. It was a lot less, and it was like a whole hand or a whole arm. At one point, it was like feet, and I don't know. Yeah, like I think if you know beforehand, and it's that amount of money, because I just think that you didn't understand how much hand surgeons are. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot, and the
Yeah.
success rate. And then at that point, like I don't know. One of my greatest fears is phantom limb.
I hear that's awful. It really, it sounds terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't imagine how often I would drop things or expect to pick
Yeah.
it up and they just don't have anything there. I don't know. So I think that you're upping your game. Yes, it makes it more likely. And plus, like at this point you need a whole different kind of sponsor. At first it felt like we were going after the people who might be in it a little bit for the pain. They don't have as much money. Now we have one sponsor we're going for. Yeah, the aim seems much more narrow these days, and it
Hmm.
makes a little bit more sense. I might
Yeah.
almost be on board.
I mean,
Oh,
it's tough. Nobody wants to lose an appendage of any kind, really, in the end. But I mean, $10 million is a lot of money. Like, I can't even fathom what kind of money that really is, what that actually looks like in real life.
and half my problem was like, how do I know the money really exists?
That's true. And like, again, if you knew ahead of time, it would be no questions asked. Like, if you're like, he's like, I'm going to take a pinky for $10 million. Yes, immediately. But the knowing after the fact, that is definitely more risky.
Yeah,
I'd still say yes. I would say yes.
Okay, so
I want to see.
I have a different scenario, and I think this is going
Yeah.
to impress you, Steph. let's say, I think this line's more with Bill Gates. Bill Gates is walking down the same street, and he says he'll give you $25 million, so 15 more. Same deal with taxes, up to $25 million net, and there's a condition, and you'll understand why. But in return, you have to spend the night in a cabin with absolutely no lights, so pitch black, no source of light, and you're in there for 12 hours at most. The caveat is there may or may not be several rattlesnakes, black widows, and a dozen or two death stalker scorpions in there with you, which are the most venomous scorpions on the planet, and they deliver an extremely painful sting. The cabin is 2 floors, so about 2,000 square feet. Medical assistance is on standby, so no matter what happens, you are guaranteed to live. You can freely move about the house as you wish, but you have no source of light. You can tap out after 4 hours, or if you're bitten sooner and experiencing medical issues, but you're paid the $25 million by the hour. So when you dip, it's prorated. However, you are guaranteed to be paid for at least 4 hours. So if you're bitten 10 minutes in and you got to leave, you're still paid by $8 million.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the house may be entirely empty with just you inside, or could have these things. Are you taking the deal?
What equipment are you bringing in? Is it just your body, like in your clothes on your back type of situation?
You can keep anything with you except for a source of light.
Okay. Yes, I would. I would. Yes, I would do it. Ideally, like my initial thought would be like, I got to go upstairs. That's where I'm gonna I could stay still for 12 hours. Like, don't get me. I could lay in a bed for 12 hours. I mean, obviously, you'd have to go to the bathroom, I'm sure, but I could probably just stay stationary. And if I feel like I'm tucked in enough and I'm away from the elements that could be getting me, I mean, I know it's not a definite, but yeah, yes, I would take that deal and hopefully last the whole 12 hours. If not, still walking away with $8 million.
Steph?
Okay, is it pitch black in there? Did you say that?
Yeah, no source of light, so you
No source.
can't see anything.
There's
Like
no
the darkest of the
windows?
dark.
Yeah, imagine you're out in the ocean and there's nothing.
Yeah, I would do this one. I guaranteed 8 million, and I like, even if I get bit, but also like I think at that point it's like, will you be bit for $8 million? And then if for some reason you outlast it, because like nobody's gonna put you in there and there's none of this stuff in there.
I mean,
It's in
it
there.
could if they're trying to get you to leave early. Like I would stay the whole time, no matter what. If I was
Yeah, I
bit,
just
I'd stay.
Yeah.
like, if then they're not getting their money's worth. Like, I'm thinking about both sides here, but yes, yeah, I think I would do this one. It sounds like a challenge that there really isn't a downside to.
Yeah. So
I mean,
we
the
know
biting
that.
is unfortunate, but I feel like also if you're stationary, like those things don't want to attack you unless you're causing harm for the most part. So if you're just like for 12 hours straight, like I feel like a spider's not going to come up to you and just bite you unless you're like swatting around all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know the ways of a
Yeah,
black widow, but
I'm worried about like how I wouldn't see where the snake is, or I wouldn't see where the scorpion is. But like at very worst, $8 million. Like I just
yeah.
have to withstand pain, and
Yeah.
they have somebody on hand, so it's not gonna last forever.
Yep.
I could do that.
You could also hear the rattlesnakes. I mean, that's a
That's
little bit
true.
reassuring, but I mean,
Yeah.
not really reassuring enough.
No, you hear it, and then you're like, which way is it coming from?
It's only like that.
Yeah.
You're like,
Am I close? I imagine I'm somewhat close, but where is it? Am I gonna hit a wall, or am I gonna run into the snake? And then imagine like that fight or flight kicks in. You run off in one direction, snake gotcha.
yeah,
Run off in
yeah.
a different direction, scorpion.
Or
That would be terrible.
you just fight the snake, Steph. You just tackle it, rip its head off before it can bite
Grab
you.
it by its
In the
snake's
dark?
throat.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be diving all over the place. But like, eventually, I'm gonna land on one. So
Just like swat around all the time, like to hopefully kill spiders. Just like,
Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm not worried about the spiders. I don't know why. Normally,
I
I
feel like they're
would.
so little. You could just be like, poof. The scorpions on the like I've never seen one in person, but they look terrifying. So
We had one in my apartment in the light, and so you just see him walk back and forth,
oh
and we
oh
named him and
no.
everything, and yeah, but you just knew that there was more because that, and then as
Yeah.
soon as we got rid of him when we were moving out of that place, another one in my children's closet in the light. Yeah,
Oh
like
my
just
goodness.
a reminder, they're here. Don't know where,
No
but
no. No no. No no no. I'd be very scared.
yeah.
All right. So today's show is actually about ghosts. Our audience is very well versed in our love of rambling and ranting, and we love ghosts in the show. We love ghost babies that do our bidding, and we love ghosts that do a little ghost dance in the corner. Love ghosts that appear as Hat Man at the foot of our bed. We love them all. And to
Oh.
clarify, Danielle, these ghost babies are not babies that died and became ghosts. I've got several comments from people that misconstrue that.
Yep.
They are the children of two adult ghosts. So you die, you become a ghost, and you procreate. And as we found
Okay.
out when I was 12 years old, real ghost hunters do not like talking about this topic. And I got banned from a ghost hunters chat room for asking what would happen if you walked in on two ghosts procreating. So
Oh my
it's a
god.
touchy subject with them.
I suppose so. Why they take it serious, like personally, you know what I mean? Like,
um, but before we get started into Ghost, I heard this really crazy story. It has nothing to do with Ghost, but it's just as
Mhm.
creepy. Um, and I heard it on TikTok. So this lady apparently went on a first date with a guy, who she met off Tinder. I think Tinder is still a thing. I don't know.
I think
Um,
it is.
but they had a good first date. He paid for the date, and they went their separate ways. And they're going to essentially plan for another date. But he texted her like an hour after they parted and said, "Hey, I got locked out of my house, and my roommate is not in town. Can I come over and hang out while I wait for him to come home?" And she weirdly, I mean, I wouldn't say this, but she said, "Yes, sure, that's fine. Come over." So he came over,
Odd, but yes.
and they were chilling for a little bit, and then she went to bed. And before she went to bed, she had the foresight to like lock her bedroom door, which I guess is a good sign. I mean, she let him in the house, but I mean, at least that's one thing. Um, and then at like 3 a.m, he knocked on her door because he slept on the couch, asking for a phone charger because his phone died. And so she said, "Yeah, there's one on the kitchen counter," without opening the door. You can use that one. And then like 10 minutes later, he came back and said, "Oh, that one's not working. Can you come out here and give me one in your room?" So creeped out, and a huge red flag, she called
Yeah.
the police. And the police came in, detained him, and then knocked on her door. She came out, and her entire living room was covered in like plastic tarp, and there was a bag of tools, power tools, in the kitchen. And the police were like, "Yeah, I mean, you probably were almost murdered."
Oh my god.
I don't know if it's true, but knowing men, it probably is true. But
Well,
like,
I
holy shit.
mean, it's not like completely shocking. No offense to the men in general, but it's not. It is not. I have a side story actually to this if you would like me to share. I had something somewhat similar happen to me, but not to that extent. Not to that. Well, no, not to that extent. Um, this was years ago. I was 18 or 19, so literally like a bazillion years ago. And this was back when you used to go clubbing, So we were in Boston. We did like a 18 plus club or dance, and I'm dancing with this guy, he's cute. He's older. Like I think I said I'm 18. He's probably in his 30s, maybe if I remember correctly. Um, and then it was him and his friend, and I was with three other friends, and they were like, "Oh, let's all go out after. Let's go get something to eat." So we're like, okay, great. Let's exchange numbers in case we get lost. Here we go. Again, mind you, it's like basic. You don't even have like GPS and stuff back then. Like this is probably 2003. So we're driving and I get a call from him. I believe his name was Tom. I nicknamed him Tom Cali because he was supposedly from California. He was just visiting. Okay. So I get a call and he's like, "Hey, my car died on the highway. Like it's out of gas or something. Can you guys like come turn around and like pick me up and then like we'll go get gas and go back?" And I'm like, okay. It's like 1 a.m. So I'm like, I'm not gonna leave these people stranded there. So we turn around, we go back to them. Now my car was full. So a couple of my friends had to get out of my car and go in his car with his friend, and he came into mine. So we're driving, we're going to get gas, and my friend calls me and she's like, he's, I don't know if we can swear, effing driving. He's driving. He's driving the car. It's obviously not out of gas. Like we are stuck in this car. I don't know where he's going. So then the guy calls his friend. He's like, "You're freaking everybody out. This is ridiculous. What are you doing?" And he's like, "I just wanted to test it real quick. I just wanted to see if it works, and it works. So I just figured I'd start driving." So we finally met at the gas station. My friend like jumped out of the car and we were like, "Good. Thank you so much." I did let him come over after, and I'll skip the rest of that story, but I didn't die. So I still to this day don't know if that was just like a ploy to like separate us or what happened. You make silly choices, especially at 18. But that kind of that jogged a little memory for me because that's a weird scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sticks in your mind. I know I've told the story before that going out to the bar with one of my best friends, and we went to a different bar, and then at the different bar we meet some guys in line for getting drinks, and they were like talking about how they were going to go play volleyball the next day, and they were at the community college that I went to, and so I was like, "Oh, that sounds like fun." And they got my number so that we could play volleyball at the community college the next day. And then when I get home, he sends me a video of me walking across the floor at the first bar. And I was like,
Oh,
instant block, like blocked him there. He found me on
no.
Instagram, Facebook, has since found me on TikTok. So like he's blocked everywhere. Cause I was like, I
Oh,
don't know what kind of like social awareness you have, but
yeah,
like
but
that's
that's not
really
right.
creepy. Like, why would you take a video of me and then later on meet me somewhere else? Did you follow me? Or was
Yeah,
it
because he
a
had that video before you guys started talking, which that makes it so much creepier.
Yeah, and didn't say anything about it, but then like sends it to me at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I like woke up to this and I was like, "Oh my god, block block." And then he like sent me something on like Instagram and then sent me something on Facebook, and the one on Facebook was like, "Your kids are really cute." And I was like, "Nope. Nope, nope,
Why
nope,
are
nope,
they
nope, nope,
so
nope."
creepy? Why?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a man thing or
No,
what,
I
but
think that's extra. That's definitely a little extra, I think. I mean,
it was really scary.
yeah. Oh my, ugh, ugh, bleh, bleh.
Yeah. Every time I hear that story, Steph, I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah, no.
I've seen your TikTok stuff, and you have all these. I'm sure Danielle had the same problem. All these weirdos commenting. I know Steph's like, oh, you have the most beautiful eyes, your green eyes. On like every video, it's the same person. I'm like,
Yeah. TikTok's weird like that. You're just, as long as they're not completely creeps, like just, you get like those DMs or those requests. Because I have like my DMs turned off unless it's like people that I am friends with on TikTok, but you still get the requests, and it's just like what, sir? What do you think is gonna happen right now? What do you think we're gonna do?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
Yeah. What is your goal? What's your end result? And do you really foresee this happening like the way you imagine it to? Gotta
No.
love it. Gotta love the internet.
yeah, yeah. So that is our little foray into men being creepy and wild. But so today's about ghosts, and Danielle, I believe you have a few stories that you're going to share with us. I also pulled some from Reddit. So
Ooh.
Danielle, I'll let you go first if you want. If you have any stories you want to tell us.
I have stories that don't pertain to me specifically, but family members and what have you. I have not been blessed with personal experiences myself, and it actually really bums me out because I'm huge into like paranormal, and like I watch all the ghost hunting shows, like Kindred Spirits, like my jam. First of all, Discovery or whoever owns it now has not renewed any of the ghost hunting shows besides I think Ghost Adventures. And I am like, I've gone through them all and I've just keep rewatching them because I have nothing else to watch now. Like I love Ghost Hunters, I love Kindred Spirits, I love the Holzer Files, like all of those. And nothing's being renewed, and I'm sad about that. Um, but anyways, yeah. So I'm a big fan of ghost hunting. I love all the shows. I get into it. Um, Personal experiences, no, but family members again, yes. So I have my grandmother who is now passed. She had her brother, and her brother's house was on Long Island, and it was haunted. Okay, so they bought this is probably like the 70s. They were told it was haunted. The real estate agent told them it was haunted. They got in and it was an immediate like, oh, this place is haunted. Turns out back in the day, there was a man that lived there and he was a slave owner, and the slaves killed him in the house and put him in the trunk in the basement. So supposedly this was the ghost that was haunting the house. He wasn't mean. He was pretty friendly, but he was like a jokester and he liked to just mess around and do things. So my grandmother's real experience was she had gone for a visit and she's staying there and she's just joking around and she's talking, like she's telling a story to the, her nieces and nephews. And she's like, okay, they knew his name. I can't remember what his name is now, but they knew who he was and what his name was. And she's like, don't play any tricks on me tonight. Like, leave me alone. And she goes to bed and she's like, Danielle, she's like, I hadn't fallen asleep yet. Like, I'm laying there. She's like, all of a sudden, I felt this tightness around my waist as if somebody was straddling over me. And she's like, I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't move my hips. She's like, the blanket was like tucked under me. And she was like, and it was a good solid like 2 full minutes. She's like, I'm just laying there. And she's like, finally I screamed and I was like, oh. And then like it released and she like jumped up and went into the kitchen. She's like, I couldn't sleep like for the rest of the night. I was so scared. But I guess he would just do funny stuff like that. He would like move something across a room, like very like real paranormal stuff that was like not, oh, could this be something else? Could that be something else? And I was like, I so wish that back then they could have reported it, because it was happening so constantly. And then actually speaking of my grandmother, she, like I said, she's passed away. And my dad, who's not religious, he's not into ghosts. He was a Navy SEAL. Like he's very like, you know. My mom had been in the hospital, and so she was out of the house for like a couple of days. She was pretty sick. She ended up being okay, but she was there for a while. And she's like, so my dad was laying in bed, and he looked up, and my grandmother, which is my mom's mom, was standing in front of the bed, like full blown. He had no doubt in his mind who that was. He knew it was her. He like looks up straight at her and she starts like pointing to the chair that my mom always like sits in because my mom has a lot of like physical problems. So she's like, she sleeps in it and what have you. So she's just standing there like pointing at this chair. And my dad's just standing there like, he's like, she's okay. She's just in the hospital, but she'll be back. Like he was trying to like to comfort her in a way. And then she just vanished. And my dad was like, I never in my life even had a slimmer of believing, you know what I mean? And he's like, and now he's like, you could not convince me otherwise that it's not real. He's like, to some degree. And he's like, that was my only experience. He's like, it's probably going to be my only experience. And it was so funny, like listening to him explain it because I said he's very like rigid and rough and tough, and ghosts just were never his thing. And I was like, what the heck? Why you? I've been waiting for this. Like, why not me? Like, come visit me. Maybe someday.
I think you just want it too much, just like Holden.
Yeah, like I think so. And but even same with like my daughter, like my older daughter, she's definitely more sensitive. And I guess the sensitivity seems to run in the family on my mom's side, but again, it seems to have skipped me completely. Like my mom has always seen stuff or felt stuff. My grandmother was very like intuitive. And my daughter also has been intuitive. And like she, even as like a kid, always saw like the man in the hat. Always she was like, oh, he's everywhere all the time. And I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, like sometimes he's at school, sometimes he's just like outside the window. I'm like, are you scared of him? And she's like, no, nope. I was like, and I felt like this wasn't that long ago. I found this out actually. My daughter's 19. I want to say it was not even 4 or 5 years ago. She started telling me this, and I was like, wait, like for your whole childhood, you just saw this guy? She's like, yeah. And then I was like, I do remember back when you were like 2 and 3 at my grandmother's place, you would be scared to go down a certain hallway, and you're like, the man in the hat is there, and I don't want to walk down that hallway. And she's like, I don't know if it was the same man. She's like, I don't remember. So I was like, well, I remember because I remember like being terrified to go down that hallway after the fact. Um, and I find that very interesting. And she's like, yes. She's like, sometimes I see like fingers go under my door, or like I'll see like floating heads. And she's like, but it's you, but it's not you. And I'm like, so I don't know if it's here. I don't know if it's just her. I don't know if I'm just not picking up on it and seeing it, but I'm trying. I'm trying.
I don't know if I want to see things that she sees. The fingers under the
No.
door or the floating heads.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want that. Like, I mean, I guess if you're like trying to get the experience or you want the experience, you have no idea how it's going to come to you, and you have to be like, okay, that sure, whatever happens, happens. But I think I'd be probably terrified in the end, especially if it was something to that creepiness.
Yeah. A brave kid.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous that like your daughter and Steph have both seen the Hat Man in some variation or form. I have seen ghosts in my life, but I've never seen Hat Man, and I'm
Um,
so bummed.
I don't know. I was pretty scared. Because
yeah.
it had like the same kind of thing where I thought I like envisioned this guy in a hat walking his dog in the front yard as I was going to sleep at night. And I think that it was my heartbeat, or that's what I tell myself now, that I would hear the footsteps.
Oh.
And I was petrified. And so I'm
Yeah.
pretty positive my heart rate would speed up and his footsteps would be like quicker.
Yep.
So when I actually saw the Hat Man, that was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
How old were you?
Oh, I had to have been in high school.
Okay.
We went into a place in Salem, Oregon. It's Fairview. It was like a hospital, and it was like, I want to say like 50s, 60s. They put everybody in there basically that they didn't want.
Sure.
And then it closed down, and since then they've like wrecked it down and built houses there. So I think it's like the site of the new Poltergeist. But
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what just came to my mind.
yeah, because there was like a graveyard that they had to move to build another building, and then so they had all these plans of like, oh yeah, we're gonna move the graveyard. There was no record of where they moved these graves to, so I think they just built the building. Yeah.
And then like, people like willingly go there, like to live.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people that like, I know somebody, we're not really friends anymore, but that he talked about that's his goal, is to live in this neighborhood, because it is a really cute neighborhood now, but all I can
Yeah.
think of is like, how scary.
Yeah, that absolutely. Ugh.
Yeah. No. No, thank you.
Yeah. But you mentioned that the pranking ghost. I have a running joke that like Steph and everyone that I know will know that ghosts are real when I die, because I will come to your house and I'll like rearrange everything. You'll find like food on the roof. You'll find like
Yeah.
dishes in the bathtub. Like I'll make it obvious and you'll know
Yeah,
who
like
it
I'm
is.
here. That's what I always think. I'm like, who knows what happens? Like I have no idea how it happens. I'm not particularly like, religious, so I don't know if I believe more in like energy or what have you in the end. But like, do they get to choose, or do they not get to choose? Because I feel like I would want to do it. Like, but I'd want to do it in a nice, but I don't want to be stuck someplace. I don't want to be there against my own will. Like, I want to know that's what I'm doing, and I want to go mess around with people and make them like known that I'm there. But I want to be able to leave if I can leave. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's like when you die, you meet, Jeff Bezos, and he offers you the makes you an
The
offer you
option.
can't.
Maybe. I don't know. I kind of have this theory that it's like all energy and that some ghosts get stuck places, but then I think a lot of people, you're just some sort of spirit and you're very busy. Time works differently. You can visit lots of people. I'm sure that Holden will have more than enough time to mess with everybody.
Well, there's residual hauntings too, which I find interesting, and maybe that's just like a ripple in time. It's just like repeating and repeating and repeating, and they're not active ghosts, or they're not intelligent or what have you, and it's just somebody stuck in this. But do they know? It's so fascinating, and the fact that we don't know the answers, it drives me a little bit insane sometimes when I think about it.
We on one of our episodes we talked about like what happens after you die, and there was one theory that blows my mind and breaks Stephanie's brain, where like essentially this reality and all realities are fake and everyone is like one consciousness. You're one soul, and you're all just different variations of the same soul going through different things in your life, and basically like you and I are the same, but you're further along in your soul journey than I am, but like
Oh, wow.
time is a flat circle. It's like doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's all wild.
So I did pull some stories, and one is actually about an imaginary friend. It's called "My Daughter's Imaginary Friend" by PKP434, and this is from the R Ghost Stories subreddit. So, in 2013, my wife and I divorced, and we both moved in separate homes. The divorce went well, and we are still good friends to this day, partly because we have a daughter together. We agreed to split custody over our daughter, and I rented an old house in a historic district in the city where we live. It was a very pretty home built in 1935, but kept up very well. I would have my daughter 2 weeks at a time, and she had a bedroom in the back of the house. She was 3 years old at the time, and I kept noticing her talking to her friend. One day, I found her in a little closet talking to someone, and I remember her saying she was talking to another little girl named Betty. I have no idea where she heard the name Betty, as she was only 3 years old, but I just chalked it up to a child's vivid imagination. Keep in mind, I am a single dad to a little girl. I really have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to dressing, hair, or just little girl stuff in general. Her mother is good at all that stuff, but not me. I put my daughter to bed one night after her bath. I recall brushing her hair that night, but that was all I did. The very next morning, her mom came to pick her up from the house, and my daughter was just waking up. Her mom went back to her bedroom to find my daughter's hair was fixed in two perfect French braids. Her mom was real proud of me at first. I had done her hair so cute, but I told her I didn't and couldn't do that. And I can't even braid her hair, much less do perfect French braids. We asked our daughter how her hair got fixed, and she told us that Betty had done it during the night. I immediately broke the contract on the agreement for the house and moved out the next month.
That seems a little like hasty, though, to move out.
Right?
I mean, like Betty. If Betty was in fact a ghost, which you would assume, because I feel like a 3-year-old can't French braid her own hair. Like that's impossible. I mean, I can't do it as a 40-year-old. So
Not with that attitude.
can't do attitude. Can't not. I don't like. She seemed like if she was real and or whatever, I feel like she was chill, pleasant, right?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
like
I'm
unless
thinking
she's. Go ahead.
she's a real person. She's hiding and living there somehow.
That yes, that could be that. I was just watching. I think it's called it's on HBO. It's a documentary. It's like Murders on Elm Street, and it's all different murders throughout that happened near an Elm Street. And the first episode actually happened in my town. And so that's the only reason I watched it. So I was like, oh, let's start with this. And it like started in one town, and like, anywho, he was living in the walls. Like, and he was just, and he was like not, he murdered somebody, he ran, and then he ran to somebody else, and he just like lived in their walls. And like it was two daughters, and they were, their mom had passed away, and they were using a Ouija board. And they were like, oh, just, knock if blah, blah, blah. So he was like doing the knocking and like all this stuff. So they thought it was their mom. The dad thought that they were crazy. And then yeah, it turned out he was just like living in their walls for like months.
So scary.
I know, I know. And then he just went on a spree and then ran, and they finally ended up catching him. But I think it was like in
Well,
the 70s or something.
the have you seen the movie The Candyman, the horror film?
Yes. Yep.
So Danielle has, Steph has not. But the inspiration for that film or story was actually a guy who lived in the walls, or two guys who lived in the walls of some old lady's home, and she kept complaining, I believe, that she heard voices through a mirror, and no one believed her
Mhm.
until a guy came through the mirror through the wall and then murdered her, and they found her body. But that's how the story Candyman originates
Yeah.
from.
hmm But I mean, poor Betty. If she was, I mean, if she's a person, well, I guess if she's a person, not poor Betty, but if she's a ghost and she was just being nice and hanging out with this kid and braiding her hair, it's
Are
a little
we?
rash to move out.
Do we hear the beginnings of Betty's villain arc? Like she's trying to be a helpful ghost, and everyone she helps just
Yeah.
abandons her, and now she's
Yep. You know, she's just trying to like maybe just play house. Like maybe she was a caretaker back in her day. Maybe she was a nanny or something, or maybe she had her own. So just braiding hair and playing with a 3-year-old is like her thing, you know? I mean, unless it was a ghost child, you know? Who knows?
well. I'd let Betty live in my house. I mean, I want
Right. Like
ghosts,
I
but
would not move out. Like not after just that. If there was
in
way more
today's
stuff
market,
happening. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
are
in
you
today's
seriously?
market.
That's wild. Oh, just over little old Betty. Like, come on. Poor Betty.
You gotta at least check the walls. Check the walls, check the
Exactly.
attic.
Yeah. Like maybe I'd
Yeah,
have somebody come like maybe a ghost hunter after that. Like if all the walls were safe and there was no, I'd have somebody, a medium or something come in and at least figure it out a little bit. Maybe,
yeah.
you
And
know?
he's just like, nope, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. I mean, all the horror movies you watch, like people stay for so long, and those are like bad things are happening. You're like, why would you stay there? But after just that, I don't know. But also, I guess if I woke up and like I knew somebody was touching my child in the middle of the night, I guess maybe that I'd be a little freaked out. So
A little
that's
bit.
fair. That's fair.
a little bit.
I think we're still, maybe the daughter did it. Maybe we're just discarding a 3-year-old genius who is.
Yeah, maybe it was just a real true imaginary friend, and maybe she was watching YouTube tutorials on how to braid. And
Honestly, it's so hard to do a 3-year-old's hair. Like, my
yeah,
daughter is absolutely feral. She's 3, and like, if I'm getting help with that, that sounds great.
yep. Be like, please, thank you so much for your assistance. Thank you. How can I
Yeah,
help?
don't forget to tip Betty out.
Yep, yep, for sure.
So this next story is titled "My Nurse Was a Ghost" by Lola Bunny 3000. In 2020, at the beginning of COVID, I had just given birth. At this time, I could only have one other person in the room with me my entire stay at the hospital. Of course, my kid's father was there, but the third day he left to clean up our house and get everything prepared for the baby and I to come home. I had gotten sick and had a C section, so I had to stay for about 4 to 5 days. While he was away, a nurse named Kelly said she would be helping me throughout the day and spending time with me so I wouldn't feel lonely while the baby's dad was gone. I couldn't really hold my baby due to being sick and the pain from the C section, so my nurses would come every time a feeding was needed. I noticed when they came in, they wouldn't acknowledge her, and she would just go to the farthest part of the room, and she would tell me, "I'm just going to get out of the way for a sec." Now, she did tell me she didn't specialize in what they did, she was just there for comfort. So at first, I didn't question anything. The entire day, she was so helpful and encouraging to me, and I really believe I would have broken down if she wasn't there with me. She was such a sweetheart. After about 5 or 6 hours, she told me she had to leave and that she would come visit me before her shift was over to see how I was doing. She hugged me and blew a kiss at my baby and walked out of the room. Later that night, Dad came back and he was very upset. He had told me some stuff happened with his mom, and that he was sorry it took so long. I was upset, but I told him a nurse named Kelly kept me company. As I'm telling him about her, my nurse is changing my sheets, and she's like, "Who is Kelly?" I explained, and she said no one named Kelly was in my room or working that day. So I instantly thought about these women who would pretend to be nurses and kidnap children. But my nurse told me that I may be hallucinating, and she told the doctor. I talked to the doctor, and he said the same thing. Well, a couple hours later, a nurse that I didn't recognize came in my room and said, "I know this might sound crazy, but everyone on the floor is talking about how you saw Kelly." I said, "Yeah, she was here with me for like 7 hours, and she really helped me." We're smiling and laughing while I was telling her about Kelly and how sweet and funny she was. And then she pulled up her phone and showed me pictures of her and Kelly that looked like maybe early 2000s. I was smiling knowing that I wasn't hallucinating. Then she sat down and told me Kelly died over 10 years ago from domestic violence with her boyfriend. I wasn't too shocked because my entire life I've been dealing with paranormal, but I got chills because I knew I never had an encounter this deep. The lady gave me a hug and started crying, saying, "Now I know she is okay." And since that day, I've been wondering why Kelly came into my room and helped me, and I kind of wish I could see her again.
Oh my God. Like, I have goosebumps.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Like, I mean, the nurse, the Kelly and herself, like, maybe that was just like her whole thing. She just wanted to, she felt like she had to help and just be there and comforting, and that's her purpose. And oh my goodness. And it sounds like nobody else had seen her up until that point, which is interesting. Like, I feel like in those scenarios, like maybe you have stories already going around, like, oh, there's a nurse that, keep an eye out type of thing. But it sounds like nobody had seen her as of yet.
Another
Yeah.
helpful ghost, though.
Well,
Another help.
exactly. Like, lending all the hands. And I mean, that's mind blowing, though, to think that somebody could have potentially been sitting with a ghost for 7 hours. Like, that must take like a crazy amount of energy to stick behind like that, if that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? That's 7 hours to be physically there enough that they're seeing you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so nuts.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then
you hear the stories about like people who get in like car accidents and like they're like near death, and they have that person like, "Oh, I saw this man named Joe, and he kind of comforted me through this whole ordeal." And like, where is he? And like, there's no record of a guy named Joe anywhere on the EMT staff, and like, it's just your like brain uh hallucinating to give you comfort in that crazy time you're going through all that stuff. But I mean, this lady not only seeing the ghost for all those hours, but the other lady coming in and showing her photos of that
yep,
nurse, like, that's crazy.
that's crazy. And then it immediately, what a crazy feeling though, because yeah, you're questioning yourself. You're questioning if you did hallucinate. Obviously, you had a C-section, which that things can happen and mess you up a little bit. So you're like, oh, was I like hallucinating? Am I going through something? Is this like is something going to happen type of situation? But then to have the actual photo proof that this is the person, that's nuts. That is insane. That should be a movie. I would watch that.
Yeah.
They should.
I'd watch that
Well, if we're following the same thought from the last guy, we just close the hospital down. Like, just shut it down.
Shutting shut it down, close the maternity ward immediately. That's it. The end. That is, ooh, yeah, that gave me goosebumps. I like that.
Mm.
No, you've seen ghosts yourself as well, like actual ghosts?
Yeah, I when I first time seeing a ghost was after my aunt had died. She was also killed by domestic violence. Her boyfriend murdered her, and yeah, it was pretty brutal. But and he only got like 3 years in prison, which is pretty fucked up.
What?
But especially, I won't go into detail, but like especially the graphic nature of what happened. But I saw her. I swear I saw her, probably like maybe 6 months after she died in my apartment, and she was just standing in the hallway, just like I could see her silhouette, and she had like this specific hairstyle. It was like, okay, you knew it was her,
Mm-hmm.
and like you couldn't. It wasn't just someone else in the house, but saw her, and then I was at a Holiday Inn, which I will never stay at a Holiday Inn ever again in my entire life. I
Because
woke
of the
up at like
ghost or because of the terrible, like,
for many reasons. The ghost is one of those
like, I don't know
reasons.
if the continental breakfast was trash or something, you know?
It's a mixture of so many things, and the ghost just like cherry on top.
Yeah.
But I woke up at like 2 in the morning. I was like 12, and I saw a guy standing at the end of my bed, and he had the like trademark green Holiday Inn polo on, and so I thought it was like a worker. And as I like sat up, and it's like 3 minutes of me seeing him like straight, like not me seeing him for 10 seconds and then gone. He like leaned in to look at me as I leaned in, look at him, screamed, parents turned the lights on, and he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And terrifying.
That, yeah. Have you ever done any like ghost hunts, like, or gone on to like in one, a place that's like known for ghosts?
No, but Steph and I have talked about doing one in Oregon, like going out there
Ooh.
and going through an abandoned asylum, recording an episode.
Yeah, because I mean, here in Massachusetts, I mean, it's like a plethora of places that I could easily go, and we have everything around here. There's a lot of places that do, private tours, or you can, rent a place. Like, I think we could even, like, the Conjuring House you could rent. I think they're finally shutting it down or whatever, and that's not far. And I'm like, I would love to. I would probably be terrified, but I would absolutely love something like that. I think I would be scared shitless. But like, imagine if you catch something or you see something or you have an experience, like, for me, who's never been able to experience anything, because I don't know why, I don't know what you guys are doing. Like, hello, I'm open.
Yeah, I mean, I also like my friend and I went. My friend is terrified of ghosts, and he during our journey to this abandoned asylum, he put my like everything in his parents' garage in my backseat and trunk because we're doing like two ghost hunts. We're like going to, I guess technically I have gone on a ghost hunt, but not really.
Mhm.
We were going to this road in Virginia that was supposed to have this hitchhiker on it. If you pass by the hitchhiker 3 times, he hops in your car and like runs you off the road. And so my friend thought it was a good idea to put like all this garbage from his parents' garage in my back seat, and he'd sit
Mhm.
in the front seat because if there's no vacancy, the ghost can't come in the car. So,
That tracks. No, that makes all the sense.
but then his idea was, okay, actually, I'm going to sit in the back seat, and I have a flashlight. So if he comes in the front seat, I'm going to shine the flashlight on him, and he'll disappear. Again, I don't know what logic is there, but that was his logic.
I get it. We had a haunted road in my town growing up in Billerica, Massachusetts. It was Dudley Road, and on this road there's a convent, and the convent, I believe, is still running today. But anyways, it was supposedly, like, back in the day, like, a nun got pregnant by like a priest or something, and they hung her, or she hung herself. I forget the exact lore behind it all, but so it was just your typical thing to just drive down this road, on a Friday night, a Saturday night. Like, we had nothing to do in, suburban Massachusetts, so that's what you did. And I remember this one particular time. The road was creepy in itself. It was a very narrow, like, it was two ways, but you could not get two cars down. A lot of farmland, but then a lot of just like heavy tree. So this was October. I think I was a senior in high school, so it must have been, yeah, like 2001. Um, it was a Friday the 13th in October, and it was my best friend's brother's birthday. So for his birthday, his mom was taking them to the movies, and then she was going to take them down Dudley Road as like a tour, like a joke, with all the boys. So our grand plan was, we're going to sit and we're going to wait in one of these like farmland areas and just like scare the shit out of them. That's like what we're going to do. We had no idea what time they were doing it. We did it. So she had this little teeny car, a Mercury Capri. It was like almost basically a two-seater with like a convertible top. So we're just going up and down this street. I mean, for hours. We had nothing else to do. We're waiting for them. We kept pulling over, waiting, seeing if they were passing by. They weren't. So it had been maybe like 3 hours. It's like 10 p.m. They're like, you know what? One more trek down, and we will. If we don't see it, we'll turn around. We'll go home. So we're driving. All of a sudden, like, bam on the windshield, like bam, bam, bam. It's like we get hit, and we're like, oh my god, we hit a ghost. Like we thought that we ran into a ghost, and we were like ectoplasmed. Like now I don't know how she drove, but all of a sudden she was underneath her steering wheel. She was like, we're screaming bloody murder, terrified, terrified, terrified. We go home. It's probably like a 10-minute drive to home. She lived next door to me. So she's like, get out of my car. I'm done. I need to go home. I'm terrified. And I was like, you can't leave me. Like, come sleep over or something. Like, I can't be by myself. She's like, no, like, this was terrifying. We hit a ghost. We're cursed now. It's probably like with me. We're like, oh my God. So we go our separate ways. The next morning, she calls me. She's like, I was fucking egged. She's like, we got egged. That's what I was. So not a ghost. She's like, I had 2 like eggs on the top of the car, 1 on the back and 2 on the windshield. And so that, I mean, at the time, I mean, I don't know what ectoplasm looked like, but to us, that's what we assumed at the age of 17. That's what it was. And then in turn, her mom ended up getting pulled over by the cops and questioned if they were egging people. So we never got to scare them. We got egged. They got questioned for egging people, and we saw no ghosts. But the road in itself was always such a good time, and people claim to have seen stuff. We never did, but you did get scared going down it all the time because it was just a really creepy road, anyways. And the convent was right there, and that was creepy in itself. And like the statues, they had these statues of nuns out there. For some reason, like they were cut off at the wrist, so they're like hand. It was just a creepy place. But yeah, not ectoplasm, just egg. I remember it like it was yesterday. Again, I have no idea how she drove home because she was like under the steering wheel, just like. Good times.
Doing the egging. We're out here on this scary road, and all I can think of are those statues with no hands. I'm like,
Yep.
Jeff Bezos somehow made it out there and talked the nuns out of their hands.
Greatest thing is like they heard us screaming. Like the people that did it, they definitely heard us screaming, and they were like, we gave them probably the best night of their lives with that reaction because it was just like our reaction was not it was not pleasant. It was not tame. It was full blown screaming our asses off for they heard
Not
it. There's no way.
While driving, like yep. I can't imagine what that looked like.
Yep. And then she had that stupid little mini car, and again, like through the canvas roof, they definitely heard us. Like it was. But I do. I remember it to this day. I mean, I remember it so clearly. I remember the fear. Like we were so scared. But looking back, oh, it's one of my favorite stories ever. It's just so funny.
Ectoplasm is an egg-like texture.
Well, I mean, all of my now research, I don't think I ever researched ectoplasm before. But it is. It looks like you.
My mom made us do these seances as kids at like 3 a.m. She would like force us to do this during the summertime. And we never caught anything except for one time we found on a recording that we left out overnight a ghost saying, "What's that?" And nobody was awake at the time, so we were super excited. Yeah. We're like, "Oh man, we got this ghost recording!" And like a year later, it turns out my dad like woke up and like went downstairs and like spoke in the recorder.
Oh no!
My mom was pissed and is still pissed to this day, even though she denies it ever happened. Yep. But my mom would go out to these battlegrounds out in Virginia, so like Bull Run and Antietam, like go do ghost hunting essentially and talk to ghosts because she thinks she's psychic. I don't know if she is, but she thinks she is. And one night she came home with her friend, and when she was unlocking the door, her key broke off. probably just an old key. I don't know. But
Sure.
her friend told her it was a demon named Clayton that followed them home. And so when I was like 12 years old, starting that point, my mom told us we had a demon living in the house named Clayton. And like we were told this like as kids that you not
Oh my
only you have
God.
a ghost, it's a demon and it's watching you sleep.
Oh. Why?
Well, like and like after
Why?
the whole like Holiday Inn thing, like when I saw the ghost, normally like if my daughter saw a ghost and she'd communicate that to me, I would like comfort her. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
okay, it's probably nothing. My mom was like, "Oh my goodness, you have the skill or like
You
the
have the
foresight
gift.
to see you have the gift." I'm like,
Yeah, you have the gift.
I don't want to hear this. But I'm like 10 years
Yeah.
old if I was.
You're like, I don't want that gift. Like, I don't, that's not something I want right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we joke that Clayton is always fucking with our podcast and stuff. So
Wow. Clayton, huh? That, I mean, I definitely believe like people can pick up on that stuff. And like I said, my grandmother was intuitive. She would claim that she would know who was visiting, who they were, because like she would always just have visitors or dreams or what have you. And she always knew who they were, what they were, and I mean, she didn't talk about it too much because I maybe she thought it would scare us or I don't know, but it was just like a known thing that she knew they were spirits. She could communicate or she would know who they were, and it was just something a matter of fact for her, which was always quite interesting. Or she was just crazy. I mean, either or.
well, according to we had a ghost hunter on the show like 2 months ago, and according to him, you're seeing ghosts and you don't want to see ghosts, you just tap your forehead like this.
Oh,
If you're closing your third eye or whatever. So
yeah,
like,
closing that up.
so you gotta go around closing that, tapping your head, and you see good,
How do you
closing that
open
third
it
eye.
though? That's the thing. That's my question. I mean, yeah, I'm like, "Ding." I've done a lot of those, like, oh, open your third eye, like meditations. I still don't see shit, so I don't.
He also told me like I was asking him about like haunted objects. I'm like I'm trying to get
Yeah.
haunted still to this day in this house, and so I'm like looking for haunted things. And I was like, hey, so if I was to go to like an estate sale, and find the most haunted object, like what would you recommend? And he was like, well, anything that anyone uses in life on a regular basis is probably haunted because your energy is attached to it. So I'm like, okay, so I gotta look for toilet seats and like combs and like things like they, you use every day, I
Yeah,
guess.
toothbrush or something like that.
Toothbrushes, dumpster dive.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, I see. I don't know if I want to bring in haunted stuff. I don't know if I want the ghost in my house. I mean, if one came in, but I feel like it's like not going to happen now because like unless something weird was to happen, I'm not going to get haunted all of a sudden in this house, you know. But again, unless I go to estate sales and try to find stuff,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe that's an option.
So I have one final story we'll end the episode on, and it is a little bit longer than the other ones, and it has two parts. It's called "Had Conversations with my brother for 2 days before I found out he died the week prior" by Mortis Malum. This is the first time I'm writing about this. When I was 13, my older brother, who was 18, and I were on our way to a movie when we were hit by a drunk driver. I woke up in the hospital 4 days later, having lost my right leg and other leg in a cast, along with other various injuries. The night I woke up, my brother was sitting in my bed, telling me everything will be okay and to go back to sleep. The next day, my parents came to visit and asked how I was doing. I asked them why my brother was not with them, and they looked at each other and didn't say anything. That night, I again woke up to my brother sitting on my bed, telling me he knows I can get through this, and I need to be strong and overcome this and not let my injuries stop me from living my life. We talked for a bit, him not answering specific questions, but answering more general questions. I recall asking him why he was still wearing clothes from yesterday because it was very unlike him to wear anything similar to what he wore the day before. He didn't answer that, but when asked how he was, he said better than he thought, given the circumstances. He reminded me to be strong and to keep living and not let anything stop me, and how much he loves me, before telling me I should go get some more sleep. The next day, my parents again came to visit, and I again asked them why my brother was not with them, and they looked at each other again, and it was only after I said I would like my family to visit together all at the same time, and would like my brother to visit during the day when he can talk more instead of at night, and my dad asked what I meant, and I told him Andy had been coming to visit at night. My mom broke down and left the room. My dad told me it was impossible because Andy died in the accident upon impact. I didn't believe it and argued and ended up having to be sedated. That night, I had no visit, and the next day, my parents brought the newspaper article about the accident. Years later, my fiance had an experience, and having never seen a photo of my brother before, she described him to a T and what he was wearing. This is a story for another time, but it was nice knowing my brother is still around and looking out for me and those I love. Update. Since people asked on my last post, I got permission from my fiance to share this. Something to note before getting into what happened: my brother died when I was 13, and we're both in a car accident. My fiance never met my brother, never saw photos of him before this, and my fiance is bipolar, extreme highs and extreme lows. We had been dating for 4 months at the time and just moved in together. I didn't know at the time, but she had gone off her meds, and this all happened while I was at work, and she told me about it later. She went out for a walk to get some air because she was feeling really claustrophobic, the start of a manic/depressive episode. It got to the point she thought dying would be the best option, and standing at the corner, she thought the best idea would be to walk into traffic. As she took a step off the curb, someone grabbed her and pulled her back and turned her around into a hug. Arms wrapped around her, telling her she doesn't want to do this, that everything will be okay, that she is stronger than she realizes, and it isn't her time. They told her to just breathe nice, slow, deep breaths, and she looked up at him and said thanks. Turned around to wipe her eyes, and when she turned back, the person was gone. She told me about this when I got off work, and it was when she started saying what he told her and describing him that my heart really started beating fast. I knew who helped her. She described him as being 17 to 18, athletic, slightly taller than her, dark brown, shaggy hair, big freckle or birthmark under his eye, with a blue shirt that said JS Jenks in a yellow print. I told her I knew who helped her, and I can't explain it. I told her it was my brother, and she said it was impossible. It was a real person. She got mad at me for suggesting it because she never believes in ghosts or spirits or anything like that. She's a big skeptic. I asked her to please trust me, and that we drove to my parents' house that night, and I went into the basement and found a picture of my brother and asked if it was him who helped her, and her face went pale, and she kept asking how it was possible. I had no idea what to say because I didn't know either, but told her he came to me in my time of need, and looks like he came to her in her time of need.
Wow. Wow. Like that is, again, another chilling one, honestly. Like somebody so much like wanting to help and wanting to be there, and even as like a young kid, you know what I mean? Like that's heartbreaking, but like that is insane. I feel like I'd be trying to channel him all the time if I was him. You know what I mean? Like knowing that he's capable of doing that. Like, hey, like and then like how do you live a normal life after that though? You know? Like I feel
Yeah.
like that obviously has to stay with you forever. Obviously the accident and the passing of him is one thing, but then just having that experience and then your fiance having that wild experience. Like the brother stuff makes sense, but oh my gosh. Like wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
just never even met him before.
Yeah. And obviously, like, maybe he's trying to protect his brother at the same time. Like, oh, if something was to happen to her, that's going to destroy my brother. So let me intervene in this way, because losing her would be detrimental probably for him, considering he lost his brother as well.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And another helpful ghost.
This was a helpful ghost day.
Yeah.
Just just move. You know, gotta move towns now.
Yep.
It's too helpful.
Or just
Yeah,
be really jealous. Like,
yeah, where are these helpful ghosts? Like, come on, guys. I could use a
That
couple extra hands.
So my wife is a big skeptic of anything paranormal, of
Mhm.
course. And so we had this a friend that my friend's grandmother lived in our town, and we used to go visit her to like help with her internet and like get her computer set up and all this stuff. And we hadn't seen her for about a year, and my wife woke up one morning and apparently had a dream that she came to her and told her she had died. But before she told me that she had this dream, the friend whose grandmother that is texted me that morning saying, "Hey, just so you know, Marva died last night." And so I had communicated this to my wife, and I was like, "Yeah, Marva just died last night." And she was like, "Marva, I had a dream about her last night saying that she had died." And my wife does not believe anything. She has the
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yep. No, that cannot be a coincidence. There's no way. There's
I'm like,
absolutely no way.
what are the odds that someone you hadn't
Yeah.
seen in about a year, the night you dream about them coming to you and telling them that they died,
Yep.
they died?
Yeah. No, that was a visit. Like, and I do believe that like dream visits is a thing. Like, I've definitely experienced those, especially with my grandmother. Like, I'll have dreams that are so realistic, and like we're like in the dreams, we're just mostly catching up. And like she goes to give me a hug goodbye, like I could feel it. Like I wake up and like I could smell her. She had a very like distinct. Her apartment had like a very distinct smell. It was always like pork choppy and peas and you know what I mean, like potatoes type of smell. And like when I have those dreams, like I always have that smell associated with it as well. Like I'll wake up and I could still smell it throughout the house, which I always find like I'm not cooking pork chops and peas overnight. You know what I mean? So I do believe that dream visits are a thing, and I think it's maybe an easier channel, you know? But who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Although my mom, I'll tell you how crazy she is. Among other reasons, she told me amongst her like psychic abilities that the actor Bill Paxton
Mhm.
from Twister came to visit her one day and just said hey and like left. Uh and that was it. And I was like, so you're telling me this like guy who is very famous somehow found you across the country after he died? Like, I
And
think
just
it's one of
said
your strokes,
hello.
Mom. Like,
It just, like, came by just to say hello real quick, and that was it.
that was it. Hello, and then peace out. I'm out.
Interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah. So thank you, Danielle, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Do you want to tell the good people of Between State Lines where they can find you on social media without doxing
Yeah.
yourself?
No, yeah. I actually think I just changed my handle, and I think it's simply Danny _D. Simply Danny D. It used to be Fab Mom at TikTok, but I need to change that. You know what I mean? It was just time to I have all ghosts on my phone.
oh,
Yeah, simply Danny _D is my TikTok.
You had a podcast for a while. Are you still doing that?
Not right now. We've been focusing on like work ones, like real business ones. Because we're in a studio and people pay us to do podcasts. So we put all our energy into that. And sometimes I'm a guest host on those. We have two. One is like basically for real estate agents and talking about that kind of stuff. And then another one is just about local businesses, like out in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Which that one's a bit more interesting because you're getting to talk to like just different people that have a story. And so a couple of those I've gotten to kind of just chime in really quick and have fun with. But it's been a cool thing because I get to see all the podcasts being filmed, and we have a lot of nice equipment, and people pay us. So
hey, that's
we put
awesome.
we put our own on pause for now for a while, but focusing on the money
That's
maker
awesome.
ones, I guess. Yeah.
You don't even have to cut off any hands for that.
Exactly. No fingers lost.
Not
So
yet.
that's
Not yet.
not yet. Jeff, I'm waiting. Come.
Well, and you know for a fact he'd be that kind of guy. Be like, oh yeah, I want to have this random person's finger in my
Oh, for
office.
sure. I'm sure he already does. Like that's the thing, and you would just never know about it. We'll never know because he just pays people to keep those secrets. But we
Jeff,
know.
please don't sue us. We're just we
We're
know you
sued.
do this, but don't sue
Don't
us.
don't cut off my Amazon. Don't cut off. Don't cancel my Prime, please. I need
Ah,
it.
well, everyone, we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much.